the way to tell the difference is root causes. So AVPD people have difficulty in social interaction because they're always hyperanalyzing other people. You're always wondering what they think and assuming you can tell with limited information what they do think based on their body language or brief remarks, and you tend to think that they think of you negatively, and you tend to react poorly to that. Whereas people with autism might have problems in social interactions because they tend to take people literally when they're not being literal, or they have a difficulty understanding typical social cues that people might see. People are trying to suggest you change the conversation, right? And someone with autism might not understand that you're suggesting that unless you just say that. Whereas someone with avoidant personality disorder might assume that you mean that far before you actually intended to even suggest that you meant it. So then there's the communication differences. So AVPD people might feel that they communicate poorly because they're paying so much attention to their own mistakes. So they might, oh my God, I shared too much information there. I should not have disagreed with him. I pronounced that word wrong, or anything else. And you'll have physical symptoms usually like shaking, and that makes you embarrassed and it makes your voice go weird. And right, so you have difficulty with communication, and you can see people reacting to it sometimes, or at least you think you can. Whereas people with autism might have a whole variety of communication differences, which could include people perceiving them as not being good at having a back and forth conversation. They might not think that they're good at listening and responding to what people are saying. They're just kind of talking at them. They might be more willing to talk about their own interests than something else, whereas someone with avoidant personality disorder will probably talk about whatever you want to the extent that they have to talk to you because they don't want to be awkward or weird about it. And people with autism might be seen as sounding too formal rather than casual when it's the case that they should sound like that. And people with AVPD might worry about something like that, and it might be the case for them too to an extent, but it's probably more common with autism. About interests, people with autism might focus on super specific interests just because they really like those interests. People with avoidant personality disorder might focus on super specific interests just because they have to have something to occupy them, and they're too anxious and depressed to pursue other interests that they might otherwise have. So I thought I might be autistic because I felt like I was misunderstanding social cues, and I was bad at talking to people in a way that made them feel comfortable. I was very picky and focused with what I enjoyed. But once I learned about AVPD, I realized that I was reading into social cues more than average rather than less, which an autistic person might do. And I was either not actually making people uncomfortable and I was just perceiving it that way, or I was making them uncomfortable because I was uncomfortable because of my physical and vocal manifestations of anxiety. And I was super focused on specific interests just because I was too anxious and depressed to try something else, and I have to focus on something to keep off my anxiety. So with that, I hope you could tell the difference if you